Dorothy went to bed the same way she had for 40 years. She kissed her husband goodnight, she turned off the lamp, she fell asleep within minutes, the way she always did. He woke up beside her at 6 the next morning. She never did, no warning, no pain that anyone saw, no frantic call to 911 in the middle of the night, just a woman who went to sleep healthy, and a husband who woke up a widower. Her doctor told him something that still haunts him. It wasn't sudden, it wasn't random, it was something she had been doing every single night for years, something almost every person over 60 is doing right now without knowing it. I'm Dr. Joseph Collins. I'm a medical health educator, and for years, I have sat across from families in exactly this situation, families asking the same question. She seemed fine. How does this happen with no warning at all? Here's the truth, nobody tells you before it's too late. It doesn't happen with no warning. It happens with a warning nobody was trained to notice, repeated night after night until the body simply couldn't absorb one more. I'm going to tell you exactly what that habit is. Not a vague lifestyle tip, not eat healthier or get more sleep. One specific ordinary thing that happens in millions of bedrooms tonight, and the simple change that stops it cold. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll know if you're doing it right now, tonight, without realizing it. Let's start with what almost nobody understands about your body after 60. While you're awake, your body has backup systems running constantly. Your heart adjusts. Your blood vessels adjust. Your nervous system is wide awake, correcting small problems before they become big ones. The moment you fall asleep, most of that backup shuts off. Your body assumes it's safe. It assumes you've already handled what needed handling before you closed your eyes. If you haven't, there's nobody left on duty to catch the mistake until morning. That's why the deadliest hours for the heart and brain aren't during a stressful afternoon or a difficult morning. They're between 1 and 5 in the morning, the stillest, quietest hours of the night, the hours where nobody is watching and the body is running on whatever you gave it before bed. So let me ask you something. Dorothy's husband wishes someone had asked her, what did she drink after dinner? The answer, like most people her age, was almost nothing. She'd stopped drinking water after 4 in the afternoon. Not because a doctor told her to, because she didn't want to wake up at 2 a.m. and make the walk to the bathroom in the dark. Maybe you've done the same thing. Maybe you're doing it tonight. It feels responsible. It feels like common sense. Fewer trips out of bed, less risk of a fall, more uninterrupted sleep. Here is what nobody explained to her, and what almost nobody explains to you. When you go to bed even slightly dehydrated, your blood gets thicker. Not dangerously thick in a young, flexible body. But after 60, your blood vessels have already lost some of their elasticity. They've stiffened, narrowed in places, and they no longer forgive the way they used to. Thick blood moving through narrow vessels at exactly the hour when your heart rate naturally drops and everything slows down is not a small inconvenience. It's the exact condition your body needs to form a clot. And a clot that forms quietly at 3 in the morning doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just stops a heart. Sometimes it blocks a vessel to the brain, and a stroke happens in a person who is lying perfectly still, completely unaware anything is wrong. That is what happened to Dorothy, not a heart attack out of nowhere. A stroke, caused by blood that had been quietly thickening for years. Every single night she skipped water to avoid a bathroom trip. I want to be clear about something. I am not telling you this to frighten you. I'm telling you because this is one of the easiest things on this entire channel to fix, and almost nobody knows it needs fixing at all. If you're watching this with someone you love, a husband, a wife, a sister who lives alone, ask them right now, do you drink water in the evening, or have you quietly stopped? Because here's what makes this habit so dangerous. It doesn't feel like a risk. It feels like discipline. It feels like taking care of yourself, protecting your sleep, protecting your safety from falls in the dark. Nobody warns you that the safer choice at 9 p.m. can become the dangerous one at 3 a.m. This is only the first piece of what happened to Dorothy, and it's only the first thing I need you to understand, because dehydration alone rarely acts by itself. It works together with something else most people over 60 are also doing without knowing it, something involving what actually happens to your blood pressure while you sleep, and why the pill bottle sitting on your nightstand might be working against you instead of for you. I'm going to walk you through exactly what that is, and exactly what to do about it tonight. Not next week. But I want you to sit with this first part for a moment. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you had a full glass of water after dinner? If you can't remember, you're not alone and you're not careless. You simply were never told. That changes right now. Stay with me. What comes next is the part her doctor called the piece that could have saved her life, and it takes less than 2 minutes to understand. Before we continue, I need you to remember what I told you. Dorothy went to bed dehydrated every night for years without knowing it was dangerous. That alone was enough to put her at risk. But her doctor told her husband something else, something that made the picture complete, and it involves a small orange bottle sitting on almost every nightstand belonging to someone over 60, her blood pressure pills. She took them faithfully, every single morning with her coffee, exactly as her doctor had written on the label years earlier. She never missed a day. In her mind, and in the mind of almost everyone watching this right now, that was the responsible thing to do. Here is what nobody sat her down and explained. For a large number of people over 60, morning dosing does not protect you when you need protection most. Let me show you why, because once you understand this, you will never look at that little bottle the same way again. In a healthy young body, blood pressure follows a gentle rhythm. It rises when you wake up. It stays active through the day. Then, at night, it's supposed to drop, quietly, naturally, giving your heart and your blood vessels a few hours of real rest. That nighttime dip is not optional, it is when repair happens. But after 60, especially if you've lived with high blood pressure for years, that nighttime dip often stops happening the way it should. Instead of dropping, your pressure stays high, or worse, it actually climbs in the early hours of the morning, right when you are the most defenseless, deeply asleep, with none of your daytime backup systems switched on. Doctors have a name for this: nocturnal hypertension. Most people have never heard the term in their life. I hadn't heard my own patients bring it up once in 20 years of these conversations, not because it's rare, but because almost nobody is asking about it. Now think about the timing of that little pill again. If you take your blood pressure medication in the morning, by the time you are in your most dangerous hours, between 1 and 5 at night, that medication may have already worn off. Your body is left completely unguarded during the exact hours it needs protection the most. This is not a small detail. This is, in my opinion, one of the most overlooked conversations in medicine today. There is real research behind this. A large clinical trial, one of the most respected of its kind, followed thousands of patients and found something remarkable. People who took their blood pressure medication in the evening instead of the morning had significantly fewer heart attacks, strokes, and cardiac deaths than those who took the exact same pill in the morning. Same medication, same dose, different time. Dramatically different outcome. Nobody told Dorothy this. Her prescription bottle said, "Take once daily." It never said when. And her doctor, like most doctors, simply never brought it up because it isn't yet common practice to ask. I want you to picture what was actually happening inside her body on the night she passed. Blood slightly thickened from a day without enough water. Blood pressure surging instead of dropping in those early morning hours, unprotected because her medication had already worn off from the morning before. Two ordinary habits, neither one alone enough to raise alarm, working together in the dark while she slept peacefully, completely unaware. That is how someone can go to bed looking perfectly fine and never wake up. Not from bad luck. From two quiet gaps that nobody ever closed for her. Here is what I want you to do, and I want you to actually do this, not just nod along and move on with your day. Call your doctor or bring this up at your very next visit. Ask directly, should my blood pressure medication be taken at night instead of the morning? It is a 2-minute conversation. For some of you, it may be the most important 2 minutes you spend all year. I am not telling you to change your medication schedule on your own tonight. Please don't do that. This is a conversation to have with the person who prescribed it, someone who knows your full health history. But I am telling you that most people over 60 have never once had this conversation, simply because nobody thought to start it. If you are watching this and you take a pill every morning for your blood pressure, I want you to pause for a moment and really ask yourself, has anyone ever discussed the timing with you? Not the dose, the timing. If the answer is no, you are far from alone. You are, in fact, most people. We've now covered 2 of the quiet contributors that took Dorothy from us, water and timing. But there is a third piece to this story, one her family didn't learn about until the very end, involving something that happens to millions of people every single night while the person right next to them sleeps peacefully, completely unaware anything is wrong at all. It's often mistaken for nothing more than snoring. Stay with me for the final part. It may be the most important few minutes you spend on this channel, and it might just save someone you love. Dorothy's husband told her doctor something he almost didn't mention because he thought it was unrelated. He said she snored, loudly, most nights, for as long as he could remember. Sometimes she'd go quiet for a few seconds, long enough that he'd nudge her without even thinking about it, and she'd start breathing again like nothing happened. He never once connected it to her heart, neither would most people. But her doctor stopped him right there and asked him to describe it again, slower, because what he was describing has a name, and it is far more serious than a snoring joke between 2 people who've been married for decades. Sleep apnea. It happens quietly, in the dark, while the person sleeping next to you has no idea it's happening at all. Breathing stops. 10 seconds. 30 seconds, sometimes longer. Then it starts again with a gasp or a snort, and the cycle repeats, not once a night, sometimes dozens of times an hour, every single night for years. Here is what almost nobody understands about what's actually happening inside the body during those pauses. Every time breathing stops, the oxygen in the blood drops. The brain senses danger and floods the body with stress hormones to force a wake-up response. Heart rate spikes, blood pressure surges. This happens over and over, all night long, in a person who wakes up the next morning simply feeling tired, with no memory of any of it. Over months and years, that repeated nightly stress does real damage. It's one of the reasons people with untreated sleep apnea face a dramatically higher risk of heart attack. It's closely tied to dangerous, irregular heart rhythms, and it thickens and stiffens the very blood vessels we've already talked about, the ones that were already struggling with thick blood and unprotected blood pressure in those early morning hours. Do you see how these three things were never separate problems for Dorothy? They were one problem, working together night after night. Thicker blood, unprotected blood pressure, and a body quietly starved of oxygen dozens of times before sunrise. Any one of these alone might have been manageable. Together, in the stillest hours of the night, they were not. If you or someone you love snores heavily, wakes up exhausted no matter how many hours of sleep they got, wakes with headaches, or has ever been told they stop breathing at night, please don't wave it off as an annoying habit. Bring it up with a doctor and ask about a sleep study. It is a simple test, and for many people, the treatment is far easier than they expect. Now, I want to bring everything together because I don't want you leaving this video with 3 scattered worries. I want you leaving with a plan, one you can start tonight. First, water. Don't cut yourself off after the afternoon out of fear of a nighttime bathroom trip. Keep a glass by your bed. A few sips before sleep, and a few more if you wake up, is enough to protect you without disrupting your rest. Second, timing. If you take medication for blood pressure, ask your doctor directly whether evening dosing might protect you better than morning dosing. That single conversation, the one almost nobody has, could matter more than the medication itself. Third, breathing. If snoring in your home has ever come with pauses, gasping, or exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix, take it seriously. It is not just noise. It is information your body is giving you. None of these 3 things require a new diet, a gym membership, or turning your life upside down. They require awareness and a few honest conversations with the people who care for you medically. I want to speak to you plainly for a moment, not as a channel, but as someone who has sat with families exactly like Dorothy's. The hardest conversations I've ever had weren't about complicated diseases with no cure. They were about ordinary nights, ordinary habits, and information that simply never reached the person who needed it in time. That is the entire reason this channel exists, not to frighten you. To make sure you're never the person whose family is told, after the fact, that it could have been prevented. Dorothy's husband said one thing to me that I think about often. He said, if someone had just told her, she would have listened. She always listened. She just never got the chance to hear it. You just did. If this reached you, do one simple thing before you go to bed tonight. Talk to your spouse, your sister, your friend, anyone over 60 in your life about these 3 things. Water, timing, breathing. It takes 5 minutes, and it could be the most important 5 minutes you give someone you love this year. And if you found this helpful, stay close to this channel. There is more I need to share with you, things most doctors never have time to explain in a 15-minute appointment. One last thing, and I say this as someone who genuinely cares, not as a formality. Everything shared here is general health education based on real medical understanding. It is not a replacement for your own doctor's advice, especially before changing any medication. Please talk to your physician. I want you here, safe, and watching this channel for many years to come. Good night. Take care of that heart. It has never once stopped working for you.